It's time for Coffee with the Chicken Ladies, a podcast for people who love chickens.
Hey everybody and welcome. It's Chrisie&Holly from Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. We're here and this is episode number 145 of our podcast where we talk about everything chicken, family, fun, and
more chickens.
More chickens. We drink a ton of coffee. I'm talking a ton, but most importantly,
we hug chickens every day.
And we kiss them too. Don't forget. We brew coffee from a little coffee house in historic Gettysburg, PA. Bantam Coffee Roasters. Holly Ann, what kind of coffee are we brewing today?
Today we're back to their absolutely delicious Costa Rican coffee.
I love Costa Rica and I love Bantam Coffee Roasters. So where can you get the coffee?
BantamRoasters.com.
And follow them on Instagram and Facebook. Are you ready to sip some of this delicious coffee and chat?
I am, but first, a word from our sponsor.
We have some exciting news to share from our sponsor, Grubbly Farms. They're here, new and improved, Grubbly's World Harvest.
I'm a longtime subscriber, and my flock love the healthy, nutritious treats, plus orders $40 and more ship free.
If you haven't heard, Grubbly's has a fantastic layer pellet and crumble feed. It's packed with plant and insect protein, perfect for those picky chickens and ducks.
Grubbly Farms makes food and treats for healthy pets and planet.
To support us in Grubbly's, go to our website or our show notes and use the link. Try it today. Okay, so how are you doing today?
Great. Yourself?
I'm hanging in there. Looking forward to bonfires and fall weather and not a lot of chickens molting, but hey, they're molting.
Comes with the territory. I'm over here stitching my fingers to the bone, trying to keep up with the demand for these little chickens we're selling.
They're like hot potatoes, man. They're in and out. So everyone loves them. We love them. And we love the fact that you're making them.
Well, you know, we put them up the other day and sold every single one of them. And I finished one that same night and I put it up and got up this morning and it had sold already.
Thank you, everyone. We love the support that you're showing us. It's just amazing. We love it. And Holly is really loving these little chickens. And so am I.
They're adorable. I mean,
she's stitching away over there, stitching away. I always tell her to stitch faster.
Yeah, I know. I think what we're going to do, just to make it simpler for everyone, is try to update the Etsy store like once a week.
Yeah, exactly. So keep an eye out. As soon as we have a bunch ready to go up, I will announce them on Facebook and Instagram. And then that way you can go over. They are so cute. And they're the cutest little, I like to call them bowl fillers. You know what I mean? Like they would look really cute in a bowl with something else. So they're super cute. But on that note, if you're listening to our show and you're loving it, head over to Apple Podcast and leave us a written review. It does amazing things for the growth of our show. And while you're there, hit that subscribe button. It does amazing things that help us grow also.
Looking for other ways to help support the podcast? You can share your favorite episodes on social media. You can tell a couple chicken-loving friends about the podcast.
5 million.
You can visit our Etsy shop. Check out the mugs, the t-shirts, and the tiny chickens that we have on sale there. You can become a patron of the show. Visit patreon.com/coffee with the chicken ladies. Take a look at our levels of membership. Our patrons are absolutely wonderful.
They're amazing.
And the other thing you can do to help support the podcast is visit our website and our show links, use our affiliate links and discount codes, and buy products from our sponsors.
Yay!
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Do you like subscription boxes?
Does it have anything to do with chickens?
Of course.
Then yeah. Let me take a minute to tell you about the Chicken Love Box. If you love goodies for your chickens and you need to go to chickenlove.com.
I love the mega box. Tons of useful products for my flock and a chicken tea for me.
You can't go wrong with a chicken tea. They are so cute and so soft.
In the August box, I absolutely love those amazingly good-smelling nest box herbs and that giant roll of rooster stickers.
They're great. I love the wood decorative plate. It's going up in our studio today. And with all my baking, those egg separators are going to work awesomely.
Boxes start at $39 a month. They ship immediately after your order, and shipping is always free.
Such a great deal. Don't wait. Get off the nest and click already. Use the code CWTCL50 for 50% off your first box of a 3-month subscription or more. That's chickenlove.com. That's chickenluv.com. Get your subscription today.
Have you heard of Strong Animals Chicken Essentials? They make natural supplements for your flock.
Strong Animals has used plant-based products and natural approaches to promote the health and vitality of backyard flocks. Their products contain organic essential oils, prebiotics, and other natural ingredients to support the immune system and digestive health. Give your chicks and chickens what they need to thrive with Strong Animals health products. Visit GetStrongAnimals.com today.
The Breed Spotlight is brought to you by Murray McMurray Hatchery, defining quality for generations. For over a century, Murray McMurray Hatchery has remained a trusted family-owned business working tirelessly to ensure our poultry meet the highest standards. Whether you are an experienced enthusiast or just embarking on the journey, look to McMurray Hatchery for guaranteed quality, rare, and heritage breeds, low minimums, and all the supplies you need to raise your flock. Request a free catalog today.
There once was a gray chicken, gray chicken. There once was a gray chicken. It's time for the Breed Spotlight, yeah!
Yeah. Here's the kicker. You must not have looked at these chickens yet.
I did. They're not
black.
They're black. I know. I know. I looked at them and I'm like, they're black, but I'm going to go with the name anyway because it's just fun.
Sing about the grays. Okay.
Okay. So today's Breed Spotlight, we're doing the
Norfolk Greys.
Yes.
Norfolk Greys are a rare breed chicken developed in Norfolk on the east coast of England. The man who bred them, his name is Frederick Myhill, and he intended to create a dual-purpose breed, and apparently he was fairly successful.
Right.
They're healthy, they're quick-growing chickens, and they're also pretty good layers. According to the British Poultry Club, Myhill likely used silver birchen game hens and duck-wing leghorns as the foundation breeds.
That's so cool.
Mm-hmm. The underlying theme, if you start looking into the Norfolk Greys, the underlying theme you find is that they were really not that successful. In spite of being an attractive bird and very good at their jobs, they were never very successful. Some sources blame the breed's lack of success on their original name, which was
Black Mariahs.
Black Mariahs. All written reports that I found say that Frederick Myhill named the breed Black Mariah after one of the names that were given to the German howitzer shells during the First World War.
Oh.
But there are some problems with this. Namely, some of the history doesn't really add up from all the sources. The term Black Mariah was already in use well before the First World War. In today's Breed Spotlight, we're going to take a look at the power of a name. Is an unfortunate name enough to wreck the career of an otherwise pretty great chicken breed? It may be.
That is kind of a dreamy name for them, but what it means is not something dreamy. So I can see kind of how, it's like.
Well, we'll get into it right now. So what I'm saying is the history of his naming doesn't add up, and a lot of the origin of the name doesn't add up. The biggest bone of contention for me in this story, historically speaking, is the date that Myhill started breeding and probably naming his birds. So some sources listed 1910 as the start of his breeding project, which was before the First World War.
Right.
England didn't declare war on Germany until 1914. He did fight in the First World War. He left his birds behind in Norfolk.
Right.
So he was a veteran of the First World War. Was heinous. I mean, all war is, but it was absolutely terrible. So I'm not sure why, as a British soldier, he would ever name his birds after those German shells that did so much damage.
It's very strange.
It is.
It's very strange.
The British soldiers also referred to the howitzer shells as coal boxes.
Right. Because
these shells, when they exploded, they produced these thick columns of black smoke.
Right.
And it doesn't really sound like a very nice name for really beautiful birds. So if Myhill had named his birds prior to the war, he almost certainly had known the term Black Mariah in its most common usage. And that was a reference to black horse-drawn police carriages.
Either way, I'm like, that's weird. But
it is. Okay. I mean, it's weird.
But okay, I can see that. So it works in both kind of things, though.
And yes, it does. The interesting thing to me is that this term had been in use since the 1830s in both the US and the UK, and it was pretty common usage. The police went by to go pick up prisoners. There's the Black Mariah going down the road.
Oh, okay.
That's how it was used. There's a folk legend that Black Mariah was a woman of color. She was a very tough lady who kept a boarding house in Chicago, and she would not hesitate to call the police if her boarders got rowdy.
Oh, wow.
The character Black Mariah of the Marvel Universe may be loosely based on this folk legend.
Okay, nice.
Police wagons stopped being called Mariahs in favor of the Irish slur, paddy wagon. Now, in the UK, some scholars, and this is what fascinated me, in the UK, some scholars believe that Black Mariah is linked to regional folklore about fairies or spirits, and they had various names. There was Black Mary, Black Mariah, Black Anu, Black Annis, or Black Agnes. Does Black
This is
Agnes
getting stranger and stranger by the minute.
right? So does Black Agnes mean anything to you?
Well, what do you think?
Black Aggie.
Yeah, exactly. So
Black Aggie is a Maryland legend. It had to do with a statue of a woman that was heavily draped. Like the statue was a woman wearing a cloak.
right.
She was called Black Aggie, and the legend, teenagers would dare each other to go into the graveyard and sit in the lap of the statue at night.
The other thing that happened is, and Ella's team just got back from a soccer tournament, so they were all doing something on the lines of this, but they were like trying to go into different realms, and Joe was like, they were doing crazy stuff. Yeah. But I said to them, did you go into the mirror and ask to see Black Aggie?
Yep, that's right.
Because that's what we would do.
Yes. And so some of these folkloric tales with Black Mariah, Black Annis, Black Agnes, some of them did feature her with a mirror.
Yeah.
So the
black.
Right, and that's right. So there are also folkloric ties between the Black Mariah and some deeply Irish folklore, specifically two fairies named the Morrigan and the Banshee. A lot of people have heard of the Banshee.
Okay.
So I just thought it was crazy that this name came from all directions, these really weird places. And I'm not convinced that if I could go to the UK and I could find some personal correspondence where Myhill said this is why he named the birds that, I believe it.
So let's just name them Norfolk Grey and not even the color that they are. I love that. That's why I wanted to still use gray.
Myhill could have named the Black Mariahs after any of those meanings. So the howitzer shells, the witches or goblins, whatever you want to call them, and the police wagons, and none of those appealed very much to people. Myhill came home after the war, came back to Norfolk, and he found that whomever was caring for his flock, he just let them range willy-nilly and breed whatever they wanted. And so they had really drifted away from the standard he was using to breed. So he practically had to start over again with his breeding program. In about 1920, he took a select group of the Mariahs to the Dairy Show. Now, the Dairy Show, it's an annual agricultural show that's been going on since the 1800s. It was organized by the Royal Association of British Dairy Farmers. Various sources say that the breed didn't do well there because of the ugly name.
Okay. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, I guess any way you look at it, any of the common usage is kind of weird. By 1925, Myhill had changed the name to Norfolk Greys. The birds enjoyed modest success, but by the 1960s, they were in danger of extinction.
Shocker. So these are beautiful chickens. They do have solid black bodies and silver hackle feathers, which the gray may come in with the silver gray kind of hackle feathers.
Yeah, probably.
And that's where it comes in. So they're not without gray, but that's not the color of their bodies. They're very pretty chickens.
Mm-hmm.
They have dark eyes, as dark as possible, and black or slate legs. So that's kind of cool too. They're also as dark as they can get.
Right.
They have the straight combs. They're moderately large. So they're between medium and large. And the dark coloring on the face and sometimes the comb. So that's kind of cool too.
Yeah, it's like a purplish cast that you see. The darker pigment sometimes is labeled as mulberry face. You'll see that in the older books. They've got mulberry face. It's like a purple modeling. You see that on any of the birds that have the fibromelanosis, that have the black skin.
Right. So what I'm looking at pictures right now. They are kind of cool looking. Everything is dark except for those feathers that are the grayish color. And even the comb has it's not all black. It's some red and some black specks you'll see. So it's really cool looking.
I did think it was interesting. The only other place on their body where there's light color,
it's the feet.
It's their feet.
Yeah. They're white or white with black modeling.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool too. Okay, so they have that long flat back, and they're going to have harder feathering than many of the British breeds. They're considered a heavy breed. Like I said, the moderate to large heavy breed. Males are coming in at about 7 to 8 pounds, and hens are about 5 to 6 pounds. So here's the other good thing. Like we said before, they're good layers. They're really good layers, 200 to 230. They're right in there, really good layers, cream colored eggs. So you have this completely dark chicken with just some little bit of gray feathering and the modeling on their feet.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give a cream colored egg, which is kind of cool.
It's really cool. I mean, if you're using them for dual purpose, apparently they grow pretty quickly, mature a little on the early side. Again, they're great layers. I don't understand why they didn't do better. And a name can have a lot to do with how someone perceives something, but I don't know. I would be all over these chickens. I think they're beautiful.
It actually does have a lot to, I feel like names definitely do, like even like we talk about before, the front of a bottle of wine, you're looking at it first and you're looking at the name and comprehending it. And it's like, kind of that's why the hybrid names like Queen Sylvia or this and that, they get you, they're catchy, they want to get you in there. So I think it has a lot to do with it. But here's the thing. They will go occasionally broody. They're not going to all the time go broody, which is a good thing. And they're great for a small holding, a homestead, and especially if you're in the UK.
Yeah, they're not available here in the US. I don't think they're in North America.
We can't get them yet. So we need Greenfire Farms to like get out there and get us some of these birds, right?
Black Mariahs.
Yes.
Again, they'll be called Norfolk Greys, but I like the romance of Black Mariah. Norfolk Greys makes me think of the Scots Greys.
I would get one and name her Mariah. That would be cool.
You could name her Mariah. I think mine would be like Black Mary, Black Mariah, Black Agnes, Black Annie, Black Aggie.
Black Aggie.
There we go. Marylanders. We have a fair number of Maryland listeners. If any of you remember Black Aggie, let us know.
And the thing was, you would go in a completely dark room and cover your eyes, and then you're supposed to open them up, and you're not really seeing things clearly, and then you're really thinking you're seeing
she's
something.
Supposed to be in the mirror when you open your eyes.
Yes, exactly. Okay. They are really good foragers. They're pretty practical. They don't like to be confined, though. That's the thing. So
they really need some space to range and explore. And in the UK, where you're not worried about aerial predators to the point that we are, it's not such a big deal.
Also, they're a pretty friendly bird, so they're really good or great even for families. And some keepers report that they like to eat.
Apparently, they really, really like their food. I mean, all chickens really like their food, but apparently the Norfolk Greys really, really like to eat.
So they're just like Lucy the Leghorn over here. They'll eat until there's no more food left. Keep going, keep going. And they're really beautiful. So
they are beautiful birds. I totally geeked out on this just because the history behind it and the folklore, because that was my minor in college, was actually UK folklore. So I had a great time looking up that stuff. I don't know why he named them Black Mariahs. I don't know that Norfolk Greys is a really good name for them either. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. So you know where I'm going with this. If you have them, send me a picture, mention us in your story on Instagram, and we'd love to reshare it.
If you're looking for a chicken coop that's produced in a planet-friendly, sustainable way, try Nestera.
Each coop is made from highly durable, 100% recycled plastic that keeps the equivalent of up to 2,000 shampoo bottles out of a landfill.
Their clean, modern design will fit into any garden or run area and comes with an industry-beating 25-year warranty and a range of handy accessories.
Simple to put together, so quick and easy to clean, and most importantly, red mite resistant. Your chickens will love it.
Quick shipping from Nestera.us.
For a 5% discount, use the affiliate link in our show notes, on our website, and on Instagram. Link in bio. Check them out today. Roosty's proudly sponsors Coffee with the Chicken Ladies.
We personally use Roosty's products with our chickens, and we're huge fans.
They have their awesome nesting pads, do-it-yourself feeder and waterer kits, and they've just released their best product ever, a new chick feeder and waterer set.
They have adjustable legs to keep food and water clean. They're super well made, and the feeder even has a removable lid so it can easily be filled from the top.
So if you're raising chicks or keeping chickens, all their products are available for Prime delivery on Amazon.com.
Check out the Roosty store on Amazon or follow the link in our show notes.
Okay, so we're going to move on to main topic. Yeah. So we're about to go across the pond and have coffee with Fiona. Yeah. Hey, Fiona, how are you doing?
Really, really well. We're coming to the end of the chicken breeding season.
Yeah.
So we still have little chicks running around. So Sky's just had 4 more chicks. And these were bought-in eggs because we're trying to actually hatch a new breeding cockerel for the next year. So we're trying to give ourselves lots of options. So we've now got Licorice and Sky who have unrelated bought-in chickens. And they are just so, they're adorable. The tiny, tiny little ping pong balls. I love them. And then you've got the giant ones. And obviously, the first ones from Taffy had hers very early in the season.
Right.
And we've already started selling some of them. So they've gone, but we've kept 3. And they're just so beautiful. And there's one that looks exactly like Gannet. My beloved Gannet. I know.
You have to keep
so
her.
Cute.
You have to keep her.
You have to.
Oh, yeah. So, she's staying. In fact, I've started calling her Gannet. I was originally going to call her Pelican, and now I keep calling her Gannet.
I like it. That's so sweet. So did you do any other breeds this year? Did you end up doing any different?
Yeah. So we've got Exchequer Leghorns, which are gorgeous. So like Dalmatian Leghorns.
I know. They're on my list.
They're on Holly Ann's dream list.
I love them. I'm coming over.
And they're amazing. They are so independent from Jura. So Jura hatched them and she trails after them. They're off doing their own thing. They really do not care what she does. So she is having a hell of a time with them. And then
that's an idea. You could name them some of the names from the 101 Dalmatians. Pongo.
Good, yeah.
Perdita.
I was thinking Cruella, but there you go.
Cruella's on my list of names. I love that.
Everyone asked me if I have named one of the Houdans Cruella, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because I hate Cruella so much.
I love
her character.
Cruella DeVille. It's
Cruella DeVille.
So we might do another competition to actually let people name them. So we might do that to the social media, but we'll see how we go. So we've got them, and then we've got some French copper black Morans. And to be fair, we had English copper black Morans before. And to be honest, they were nice, but they were a bit kind of in the background and not very exciting. So I wasn't overly enthused about them. But oh my goodness, these, they're so friendly. They're wonderful. And their little feathered legs.
I was going to say, if they're French lines, they've got feathery legs.
Yes, they
have. And they're gorgeous and they're so friendly. And then we have got, what else have we got? We've got the
Did you get Well Summers? Did you get Well Summers?
No, not this time. We decided to go for the French copper black Morans instead this time.
Cream bars are one of the best chickens ever.
Well, Gertie's going to be very disappointed that you did not get Well Summers.
I am so sorry, but we'll do that next time. But we have a surprise Silky.
Nuh-uh.
We've got, seriously, we've got a Silky, which was supposed to be a Buff Orpington. It's even worse. So it was one of Licorice's, and it was a bought-in set of eggs. And this was a really reputable breeder, really, really reputable breeder. So this should never have happened. And they're denying it was anything to do with them. But given that it was at hatch from the eggs we bought from this breeder, there's definitely a mistake somewhere. And we didn't know what it was because obviously the breeder's saying no.
Okay, so is it a girl? She's going to be a house chicken?
She's definitely a girl because obviously you've got the mascara lines on her eyes. So it's definitely a girl. And we're still in 2 minds whether it's actually a standard Silky or a Silky Orpington cross. But the more she grows, the more we are convinced she's a pure Silky. But she's a standard Silky, so a larger one. And she's just so lovely.
You have to keep her. And
I can't because she will be laying the same color.
But she could be a house chicken. She could just be your house chicken.
No.
Fiona's not going to do a house chicken.
Come on.
No. If we've got chickens, it cannot be isolated like that. It's going to have to be out in the orchard with the others. It's
like you could have videos of you just walking around with her on your shoulder. Like she could be like,
Oh, I've already got a buyer for her who lives actually not far.
I was going to say, can you send her to me? I'll take her.
You're a little bit further.
A little bit.
No.
Just a tad.
Well, no, don't worry, Fiona, because I'm going to come over and get some Exchequer Leghorns from you, and we can just get the Silky at the same time.
Can you just pick up my Silky while you're there, please?
Oh, you're coming with me. I'm not doing that by myself.
Coffee with the Chicken Ladies takes over Fiona's house. We're here.
Oh, God.
Exactly.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's absolutely fine. Don't worry.
Okay.
But no,
so
I want to keep her, but I can't.
Oh,
Anyway,
after all of
we're supposed to be
this,
having a round table, aren't we? Sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. After all of this, we actually have to say what we're talking about today. Dun, 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 dun. We're talking
Molting.
molting.
There's one thing that most chicken keepers dread. And for anyone who's a new chicken keeper who's never gone through the catastrophic molt before, oh my goodness, it's a shock, isn't it?
It's awful. It's one of my least favorite things that come along with chicken keeping is the molting. We all know it's a natural process.
right.
They have to do it. But to watch them go through it is just not fun. It's not a fun
But
thing.
I don't know, honestly, I don't know which is worse. I don't know whether it's worse seeing them shortly before molt, before they start losing the feathers, and the feathers are all frayed and looking a bit worse for wear, or whether it's worse seeing them when they've got that pincushion look. I don't know which is worse.
Pincushion is worse.
Pincushion to me too.
It's so
Yeah.
On a
awful.
cold day, that's even worse.
Oh, that's even
I think
worse.
we suffer more than they do because it's just like, what can we do? Poor
Yeah.
little thing.
Right. And I think what's
Horrible.
worse of all for me is the slow molt because it takes forever.
Yeah.
And you keep seeing it slowly happen. They slowly get the feathers back.
Our Delawares are doing the slow molt. They've probably been molting for a month now. They've only molted like halfway. They still
Yeah.
have a whole long way to go. And because they're white, you see other little pink skin peeking through. It's terrible. It's just
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about tips and tricks and things that you can do to help through the molt. But first, Holly Ann, let's explain what exactly, let's just put it out there, the definition of molting so that everyone understands it.
Molting is essentially dropping their feathers and growing new feathers. You see a molt more drastically on a hen, although roosters and cockerels do molt. They do much more slowly and they don't lose pretty much all of their feathers the way hens do. Hens replace essentially all of their feathers in fall because they need fresh feathers to keep them warm through winter. The first year you have pullets. So if you got chicks last year and they were all feathered out by fall and they started laying, you're only going to see that while they're under 1 year old. Because
That's
the next fall, and this tends to be one of the worst they'll have in their lives. That next fall, they have what we tend to refer to as the catastrophic molt, where those feathers drop, and it is terrible. So if you're a new chicken keeper, we're going to give you a lot of tips and tricks because we've been through this for years and years. And trust us, as terrible as your chickens look, they can get through this with extra care.
And they all do it in a different way as well, don't they? There's no standard pattern. So you'll have some chickens that'll have some bald patches, and then the rest will be kind of a little bit gradual. Then you'll get others who will, the entire chicken, it will be gone.
Bald.
And then there'll be others which will be gradual anyway. I mean, for example, with us, with the broody hens, we tend to not have complete catastrophic feather fall because through a brood, once they've actually hatched their chicks, they then go through a brood molt, which is a little bit slight, but they'll have replaced their feathers on their backs generally, but not underneath. So actually, when you get to fall, it's the underneath which starts to drop. Unless, of course, you're taffy, in which case you're constantly replacing feathers for the entire year. I don't know what it is with that chicken, but it's the way it happens for her.
I had a Swedish flower, Bluebell, who was also that way. Bluebell never did like a big catastrophic molt. She would just replace feathers through the year. It's really funny.
Hey, that's the best way to do it, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's something for someone out there that's just starting out. When they molt, chickens will not lay eggs because they need that extra protein and calcium to rebuild the feathers that they're going to be pushing out. So that's one thing. It's a thing that a lot of people ask us is my chicken stop laying eggs mid to late summer.
Right.
That's in preparation for the molt. And the other thing is molting is happening sometimes earlier than ever in the summer.
Yeah.
And I guess that's to do with climate change and different things that are going on. But I found that my chickens all started molting around July.
Yeah, I started to have some molts in July. Right now at the end of August, I'm seeing real signs of more hens doing it. But in my experience, the roosters and cockerels tend to start molting in July. and they will lose hackle feathers and tail feathers primarily. So if you see a rooster and he's looking a little bit naked around the neck, don't panic. He will grow them back. As Chrissy said, the hens will start to prepare, and they're actually storing some of those nutrients in their body, because you will find that as they start to molt, they feel uncomfortable. They don't feel well when they're molting, especially if they're having a catastrophic molt. So one of the things you have to do is keep an eye on their eating and make sure they're eating enough and getting the right nutrients.
Fiona, tell us some of the tricks that you do with your chickens when they molt. Some of the extras things that you do to help them through it.
Well, it is that protein content. What we immediately do is make sure that actually, if we do have the flock on layers at the time, we feed to the youngest in the flock. And actually, once they go into a catastrophic molt, so once our chickens get into that point, we've normally sold off our youngsters. So in the US, you'd have them on all flock. It's called growers here in the UK. So they would have been on growers at that point just before they're sold. But we would have moved them onto layers because they would have all started to lay. Now, obviously, we immediately take them off layers and onto growers so that those hens who really need that extra protein can have it. I also make sure that they've got a vitamin supplement in their drinking water as well, just to give them that extra boost. If it's a catastrophic molt and the nights are colder, I do put, because we don't have heating panels because our nights don't get very cold. But what I'll do is, just to make sure the ambient temperature in the coop is raised a little bit, I'll put hot water bottles wrapped in old towels inside just to get that initial temperature up when they go into the coop. But as I say, our climate here in the UK is very temperate. It's not like yours in the US. So it's a whole different structure. And I've heard of people giving all sorts of additional protein supplements we are very, very restricted in what we can do here in the UK, because there is a lot of legislation around animal byproducts. So you can't give anything which is animal proteins. But I have heard of people in other countries giving, for example, cat kibble, but actually making it into a mash. So it's given to them warm. That apparently has a very high protein content, much higher than the all flock. I've heard of, obviously, mealworms can be given, which we can't do here in the UK either. We can't give the dried insects that you can give. So we're a little bit restricted. All I can really do is the vitamin supplements, keeping an eye on their food content. Now, if they do start hunching up and they're very cold, I will isolate them. I will put them in their own coop with a smaller run, and I will try and ensure that they have got their food inside the coop rather than being outside the run, so they don't need to come out as much. And just trying to give them warm mash as well, so it's warm food. I'll give them the all flock growers with hot water on it, and that hopefully encourages them to eat that extra protein. But we're quite restricted here in the UK, unfortunately. It's really quite difficult.
The thing you have to really watch out for in a flock dynamic with molting is, and I've noticed this in my own 2 flocks that I have, is if one or just 2 are molting, the ones that aren't tend to sense that something is off. And even though it's natural, they may try to push them out or bully them a little bit during the molt.
And the pecking order is up for grabs entirely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you have to really watch out for this dynamic. And when it happens, what I do is pull the molting chicken out for a little while during the day, do a separate feeding, give extra vitamins. What Holly Ann and I use is the chicken elixir from Strong Animal Chicken Essentials. It's amazing. You can also give a dose of NutriDrench during the really bad parts daily. And those types of things, like you said, the vitamins are going to really help those feathers to grow in a little bit quicker. Now, here in the States, we have a really good product that's been out for a few years now that we love. It's called Feather Fixer, and it's a food made by Nutrina to feed during the time of molting. So it pumps up everything that they need during that time. So you can
see, we don't have that here. I'm not aware of it at all. And that would be amazing, I have to say.
Back in our episode where we talked to Twain and Mark from Nutrina, they talked about the process behind engineering that. And it really is, they were completely original on the market. No one else was offering a feed that can be used during molting. It really is great stuff. And we can also do things like supplement maybe some canned fish, maybe some tuna fish.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few people giving tuna.
There is an old time
I'd love to be able to do that.
It really is wonderful. I'm so sorry that you can't do that or feed the bugs.
And the other thing that you can do is feed back eggs because they are rich in protein and calcium too. You can cook the eggs and give them a little treat of their own eggs back. The main thing to remember here is when molting, protein and calcium are needed in much higher level than on a normal basis. So thinking of ways to get that in. And like you said, Fiona, the pecking order is up for grabs because it makes them vulnerable. And the chicken that was once strong with all of their feathers may get bullied. And I find with mine, it can bring a time in where the other thing that you and I, Holly, were talking about was it's a time where they can get intestinal parasites because the chickens that are bullied are pushed to the sides of the run areas where they tend to just peck and eat at stuff off the ground a little bit more. Right. And they can pick up some intestinal parasites by doing that. So that's something else to watch for.
Especially
I mean, that's something we have a very, very close eye on because obviously we are free ranging.
Yes.
So when they go into molt, they're generally still in their free range environment. And while the pecking order part isn't so much of an issue for us because it's a very, very large free ranging area. So actually, if a chicken is being bullied, there's lots of places for them to hide. They can run away. We've got lots of shelters for them. There's lots of coops. There's lots of areas where they can go out of sight and actually have a bit of peace and quiet. But it does also mean that they're less likely to be around the feeders, which is why we end up picking them up and putting them in their own little areas and just making sure that they've got that extra bit of TLC.
I think that's important, the TLC during this time. And we talked a lot, Holly, right, about nursing and how important it is.
Right.
Even during natural processes like molting, that keen eye, the extra nursing, the extra TLC, Fiona, those are things that are important.
Sweaters. Please, no sweaters.
No sweaters.
Oh, and the reason for that is because a knit is very soft and can get caught on pin feathers. And that can be very painful. It can actually rip pin feathers out. And if the pin feathers are still engorged with blood, it can cause a serious bleeding episode from your chicken.
And they can't puff themselves with their other feathers that are there and create that heat. So
I did actually see a national newspaper story just this week about an organisation who was rehoming some chickens. It wasn't one of the big UK charities. It was a smaller one. And they had provided sweaters for the chickens for anyone who was picking them up. And these chickens clearly were growing new feathers at the time to replace all their bald spots. And I was just reading this going, oh, those poor chickens.
Right. As it's cute, it's a good photo op, but it's not a good thing for a chicken to have on in their everyday life.
I mean, especially not if it's a tube knit. You know, if it's a seamless knit where you're pulling it down over the chicken, that's really not great. Fiona pointed out the hot water bottle wrapped in towels, which is a fantastic way to raise heat temperature. If you're here in the US, you can use a cozy coop heater or another panel heater. Don't listen to the haters who say don't do that. Chickens have been molting for thousands of years because here's the reality. Chickens have evolved with humans for 10,000 years. And like most other livestock, they lost some of the things that would have happened naturally for them. So they do grow more feathers now as domestic chickens than they did, say, a couple thousand years ago. It is up to us to keep them comfortable, especially an older hen. An older hen molting, you know, she's cold. She might not be eating enough. They really need a heat panel or maybe a heated perch. They need shelter from the wind during the day, and they definitely need the right nutrition.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about my Orpingtons, heavily feathered bird, and actually at colder nights, they can cope really nicely with all these feathers. Take those feathers away, they've got no insulation, they've got nothing to protect them when they're going through the molt. So absolutely, we do something to help them. But I mean, to a large extent, they're surrounded by lots of other chickens with the heavily feathered. But we like to give them that hot water bottle just to start them off. And actually, if they're isolated in their own coop, we will put a brooder plate in. Because although we don't have the panel heaters, the coop panel heaters that you have, they will need a heat source all night if they're on their own in the coop and they're going through a catastrophic molt, because they won't be able to keep themselves warm, bless them.
Exactly.
Exactly the same technology. The brooder plates are exactly the same technology that's used in a panel heater. In fact, Chrissy has a really nice one that you can change it, either brooder or flat panel.
Oh, fab.
Yes, yes. The other thing is that I want to mention, and because it's one of the things I'm big on, is we've mentioned it a lot, is having powder to liquid food. Because if your chicken is getting pushed out, not eating as much. And the other thing is they might not be pushed out, but they might just not feel good and not feel well enough to eat a lot. The powder to liquid food, you can syringe a liquid meal in, and that might give them the jump that they need to get them back into the food bowl. These are just some of the things that you can do to pull them out. And you can say, oh, this is natural, but we can intervene and help them through the process.
Do you know, I've never had to use that yet.
I have.
Good.
The one thing that I've managed to get them to eat is chick crumb made into a warm mash. If all else fails, there's something about the aroma of the chick crumb with the hot water on it that just gets them going, and that starts them off, and then I can start getting them back into the normal flow.
Sometimes I'll feed the mash and I'll just give them an extra meal to kind of give them the boost along with the vitamins. And believe it or not, you'll see a difference in the way the feathers are growing in speed. If you start feeding, let's say, Nutrina Flock Fixer, and then they're eating some of that, and then you give the vitamins, and then they're not eating that, and then you do the mash, and then you do the liquid food, you're going to speed up the process because they're going to have so many of those good vitamins and protein in their system to help grow them out a little quicker. And that can be important. That can be what they need to get through it also.
Yeah, and it's having that understanding and close eye on, what do your chickens normally do? Are they acting out of the ordinary? Are they pulling themselves off to one side? Are you not seeing them on their feeder just as much as you normally do? And actually, it's doing that body condition check as well. You know,
exactly.
Just doing that health check on a weekly basis and making sure that you understand what their muscles normally feel like on each chicken. And if you're seeing them drop a lot of weight, or those muscles going from convex to concave, you know, that's when you really need to be doing something urgent.
You need to intervene and give them the nutrients that they need to get them through a hard process. Helping them through the molt, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just giving them a little extra TLC. I love that way of saying it, TLC. That's what they need.
Yeah, but there's still nothing funnier than seeing a chicken without a tail.
Oh, my God.
Oh, right now. Right now, my bachelor Nankin flock, there are 3 new boys who are just a year old, and then there are 3 older boys. The 3 new boys who are just a year old, well, they're not molting, but the older boys have no tails. And it is hilarious. It's really funny.
You've got to post that on Instagram. I really want to see a Nankin rooster with no tail.
Ridiculous.
Right now, Clover has no tail. Now that's crazy looking because Clover, you know, she's running around, and this chicken uses her wings as brakes. She puts the wings down to stop.
Good girl.
And she has no tail. It's just so funny looking. You're like, what the heck? But I don't know which one of us said it. Sometimes it is harder for us than them, but they can't tell us, hey, I feel kind of bad today. Or to use this, I used to say to my mom when I didn't want to go to school, I feel iffy. You know, I feel a little iffy.
I feel a little iffy today. I like that.
Yeah.
Feeling
So
iffy.
if they're feeling iffy, then they just need the extra TLC to get through it, pull them out, give them the stuff, give them some extra love. Now, here's the other thing that we should mention. Extra love doesn't mean extra cuddles during this time, because those pin feathers are highly painful when they are coming through. It's almost the equivalent of a needle coming the opposite through the skin, and they hurt. So no extra cuddles during molting season. Now, you won't hear me say that very often, but this is one of those times.
And
the other reason we were talking about earlier, you know, don't put sweaters on because of that, exactly that reason as well. It's painful for them. But they also need to be able to access the top of the pin feather as well, because they've got to be able to nibble off Because when it comes through, it's actually got a rounded sheath on the end, hasn't it? Which they need to be able to nibble off so that the feather can actually emerge through. And if you put a sweater on them, not only is it painful for them, they can't actually nibble that top off to actually get the feather and look magnificent again.
Exactly.
Yeah, the feathers are cased in a little keratin sheath. And you'll see them when they're preening, they'll be dropping the little bits of keratin off all over the place.
Oh, yeah. When you hold them and it's like the chicken dandruff, basically, it's like all over you.
Yeah.
You know that's what's happening. And sometimes I have a bad habit of I like to pick it off of them too. It's like one of those things. I like to do it. I'm like, oh, I guess it's a guilty pleasure. That's not good.
I was going to say, is this something we should know about? Is this?
If everyone could see our faces, Fiona and I are like,
what?
It's just something satisfying taking that off and seeing the feather part under it. I'm like, yes.
You see, what we should have done is we should have taken a screen freeze of our faces at that point. That would have been an Instagram moment.
That's for sure. So, have either one of you ever had a molting chicken, probably hen, who you got her to eat something for a day or two and then she stopped and you had to just completely keep trying new things for the length of her molting?
Yes.
Yes. And actually, what I've had to do, I had one hen who, if I gave her the same thing 2 days on a trot, she would just turn a beak up at it. So it would constantly, it was like in rotation, I think, for 2 or 3 weeks in the end. And it was something different every day. And the other thing, actually, the one thing I do to help them, to help heat them up a little bit, is I do give them some mixed corn in the last hour before they go to bed as well, because that raises their body temperature and helps them a little bit as well.
I found that if I did some mixed corn, just standard scratch, and mixed in steamed but cooled green peas, a lot of the girls like that. They did pretty well on that. It's a nice vegetable source of protein.
It's high in protein. Peas are super high in protein.
Yep.
No, out of principle, I can't. I just can't.
What, the peas? Because you're going to eat the peas.
You don't like
I'm allergic to them.
Yeah.
No, you're allergic to peas?
I'm allergic to garden peas, so I just can't. No.
That's wrong.
I know, I can't even bear to give them to the chickens.
I love them.
You know, whole different ball game, other legumes, no problem. Just garden peas, no.
You can do the dried split peas. I mean, you can do whatever works for you. My girls
honestly, I even see them, I start to itch. I just can't.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's wrong. I love fresh peas in the spring.
Well, could you imagine what it's like eating out for me at the moment, where you've got the fashion of pea shoot garnish everywhere?
You know what? I can't imagine
it's not good.
Oh, it's
I can imagine it, because I can eat practically nothing when you go out to eat. So I'm right there with you. Yes.
Oh, man. So here's what I'm going to say. If anyone is out there and you have questions about molting, or you're just having a difficult time with a chicken with molting, reach out to us and ask us the questions. We have no problem helping you. We're there for you. We're going through it with you right now with our chickens. And, you know, there are lots of different things, tips and tricks, but TLC is the number one. Just overlove them and give them some extra protein and vitamins during this time to speed up the process. It's something that really works.
And
for
molting
sure
can look very different on different birds. Fiona said that in the beginning, but keep that in mind, especially if you are new to chickens. You know, you might have a hen that takes literally 3 months to lose all her feathers and grow new ones in. Or you might have, like Lucy the Leghorn, who drops all of her feathers in 2 weeks and is refeathered in a week.
But those 2 weeks are rough. Those 2 weeks are rough.
Yeah.
They are.
But I think it's also worth saying that there are other reasons for molting. It's not just catastrophic molting in fall. You can have anything which basically puts a stress on a hen's body, as you know, can cause a minor molt. So this is why I talk about brooding molt a lot, because actually brooding is a lot of stress on a hen's body. So nearly every single one of my broody hens, as soon as they've hatched those chicks, they'll go through a minor molt, and it's less intense. But as I say, Licorice at the moment, she's got no tail, and actually she's two-toned. She's beautiful dark ginger on her back, and this yellow, really kind of light sun-bleached look underneath. And she looks phenomenal, actually, but it's so weird. But, if they've come through, if they've moved home, if they've been threatened by predators, they can actually start to drop feathers because it's a little bit shock in their bodies. It's that stress can actually cause that increase in hormone and cause a little bit of a molt.
Illness as well. Yeah.
It's definitely, it's called a stress molt. They can have it for whatever reason. The broody molt and then the stress molt can be if they're sick. Like you said, if you're moving, if you got a new flock mate that's stressing out things, whatever, that can also cause a molt for no reason, not just a seasonal molt.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, one of the most common ones here in the UK is the presence of foxes and predators around the coops. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people who their chickens have gone through, they've had some feather loss and what have you. And then they have a fox attack, and it's because the fox has been stalking.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll do it. And just remember...
Doesn't mean that that's the reason if your chicken starts to drop feathers. That's not going to be the only reason, but it
can happen. I mean, seeing a predator that can kill them is so... I mean, imagine that. You're minding your business, you're eating your lunch, you look up, and there's someone right there who wants to eat you. That's very stressful.
The other thing is check for mites and lice with feather loss. And check for other things that can cause feather loss that are not a molt. That way you can treat them if it's not a molt. But generally, from the months of July through the beginning of winter, if they're losing feathers, it's more than likely a seasonal molt.
And
if you want to see pictures of a real catastrophic molt, I do have a small video on our YouTube channel, and Gannett's on there at her worst ever molt. And she looks like a pincushion, bless her. She really does.
Put that in the show notes so people.
It's so sad.
People can get their eyes on it. Just a reminder: your chickens have stopped laying. Some of them stopped laying as early as July or August. Some of them stopped laying later. They will start again in the new year. Some of that is breed driven.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your winter layers, your Cochins, your Brahmas, your Orpingtons, some of the other Barred Rocks, Jersey Giants, Swedish Flowers, they're all going to start laying earlier because they are winter layers. So I usually have a hen start laying generally around the winter solstice, believe it or not. And then by the end of February, almost everyone is laying.
Right.
Yeah.
It doesn't have anything to do with your feed. It has everything to do with the age of your chicken and the breed of your chicken.
And the light of day.
And the day
so much
length.
light.
That's right. Yeah. Day length. They will not start ovulating again until the days are long enough that it triggers their pituitary gland and they start ovulating again.
So there you go. That's molting. We want to thank Fiona because, Fiona, we love the roundtables with you and we love catching up with you every month. You are such a dear friend to the show. And
can I just say to the listeners, so we record for maybe 20 minutes, half an hour, maybe sometimes just 10 minutes. But actually, there's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours before this where we just talk.
It's a chicken lady party.
Because you're such a good friend of ours and we love you. And it is fun, and this is just talking amongst many years of experience with chicken keeping and knowing what happens.
But
so
I learn
thank
so
you.
much from you guys. I really do.
Same here. We learn from you too. Yeah.
Likewise.
Definitely. But we hopefully will not miss another month. You'll be back on in September for another roundtable. It was a bit
strange, wasn't it?
It was so strange.
And it was all your fault, Chrissy, because you were jet setting. You were off and away.
I know, right?
That's what Holly always says.
She didn't take us, did she?
Well, no. And here's the thing. Okay, so generally Chrissy goes away and I end up with a special needs chicken to take care of, right?
This year you didn't. Oh, yeah, you did.
Yeah, that's what she says. She says, this year it'll be fine. No, because she has, poor sweet Ivy had to have part of her toe amputated because of really severe bumblefoot.
No.
So Aunt Holly had to go rebandage the toe 2 times.
Oh, no.
And of
Thank you, Aunt Holly.
Yeah. Of course I did it because Ivy's just the sweetest thing under the world. And I would go do that for any chicken. But some people are partying it up in Florida and I'm chasing a fiber all around the coop.
And Ivy said, thank you, Aunt Holly.
Oh, she's the sweetest.
Okay, so we will see you next month. Bye, Fiona.
Bye.
Bye. Just want to say thank you to Fiona one more time for joining us this month for a great roundtable. Don't forget, Fiona has a wonderful YouTube channel, English Country Life, where she and her husband share all kinds of small holding and homesteading information. including a very large series of videos about chicken care.
She's awesome. Check her out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move on to
Cracking the eggs.
cracking those eggs. Now, this week's cracking the eggs is kind of near and dear to Holly Ann over there because she's been growing some veggies, and the ones that the bunnies and everybody else isn't eating, she actually salvaged something to make herself. So cracking the eggs is?
It's coleslaw with homemade mayonnaise.
With her own cabbage.
Well, if you grow your own cabbage. If you don't, or you don't feel like shredding your own cabbage, just get a cabbage from the grocery store or get a bag of pre-shredded cabbage. We're not going to judge you.
No, or go to the farmer's market. There's so many support the local farmers and grab, a head of cabbage over there. It's really surprisingly pretty easy to make this. And this is why I like these salads, because there's not a lot of super big instructions to do, and they're delicious.
No, really, once you have the cabbage shredded, or if you're using a pack of pre-shredded cabbage, you're golden. It's very quick once you have all the ingredients assembled. If you want to fancy things up a little more, you can add a peeled and grated apple to this slaw, and it is so good. But you don't have to. Again.
Do you know what I add to my slaws that I love? Raisins.
I could see that.
They're really good.
I could see that. Yeah.
Or in the fall, I add dried cranberries.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the apple, well, obviously the apple's not going to be as tart as cranberry, but the apple serves a similar purpose to the raisins. It puts some sweetness in there.
I actually add apple also. It's so funny. It must be a Maryland thing, hon.
Maybe. My broccoli salad has apple and walnuts in it.
I put apple in everything. I'm like...
yeah, me too, if I can. Love
it's crazy. Okay, so let's start with the recipe for the homemade mayonnaise. It's not going to be difficult. We've talked about this previously, but let's just kind of go over it real quick. Let's list the ingredients that you're going to need for the mayo. You're going to need a large egg, a tablespoon of freshly squeezed lemon juice or white wine vinegar. I love that we can substitute these because sometimes you have one or the other.
Right.
A teaspoon of Dijon mustard. It's always good. A quarter teaspoon of fine sea salt, not the coarse, but the fine. A half a cup of olive oil, a half a cup of vegetable, canola, or a neutral tasting kind of oil. So that's all you're going to need for your mayo that you're going to need for the salad.
Now you want an immersion blender or a hand mixer. You might even be able to do this in a regular blender. You're going to blend together the egg, the lemon juice, the mustard, and the sea salt. So mix it until it's combined. Then very slowly, and I mean very slowly.
Yes.
Drop by drop, start adding in the oil. Once it starts to emulsify and turn creamy, you can slowly add the oil in a thin and steady stream and just keep blending it until it's thick and creamy. But in the beginning, really, drop by drop.
And that's the key.
We've made many batches of mayonnaise that did not work. So trust us on this one.
I know that was not a fun day. That was not a fun day, man.
No.
So, but it does work. And, making your own and making it with a fresh egg, it's going to give it an even more rich taste. So it will make the salad, which is awesome. So let's go into the coleslaw. We kind of talked about a little bit about what you need. A small cabbage, trimmed, cored, sliced into ribbons. It's going to make about 3 cups worth. A cup of grated carrot. I always cheat and get the Matchbox bag of carrots that are already kind of thinly. It just works. Or you can do your own carrot. That's easy enough. A teaspoon of garlic powder, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. So there's where you can use your apple cider vinegar right there with the coleslaw. 2 teaspoons of sugar, because we all know that coleslaw is a combination of acid and sweet.
Right.
So we're going to mix those flavors in. And then a half a cup of your homemade mayo, and then salt and pepper to taste. It's not hard to make this coleslaw. You're just going to put it all in the bowl.
So this is where it's really easy. Just grab whatever bowl you want to use. It can be the bowl you serve the coleslaw in. It's fine. Add everything to the bowl, all of it. Stir it until all the pieces of vegetable and fruit are coated. Chill for at least an hour, preferably 2, so it's nice and cool and crisp. And that's it. It's that easy.
So one of the main things that you'll know about this is pick a really cool bowl. One so that you can either just put it right in the fridge with the lid and it's easy to serve it out of and then store it because you're not going to eat it all at once. Or a beautiful bowl if you're having company over, one of those ones that you really like a lot. So that, I always think the bowls and the serving platters and everything make it. They make the meal look even prettier, So that's one of those times that you use it. So try it. You might like it. Send us pictures of your slaw. We want to see it.
Show off your slaw.
Okay. It's a great time of the year to make it. And in the fall, I make it all year round. My family loves it. So just send us your pictures. We'd love to see them. Okay. So let's move on to retail therapy. Retail therapy. Yeah. So this week's retail therapy, we're talking a really cool book.
Yeah, this is Molly Yeh's new cookbook. Home is Where the Eggs Are, which is the cutest title ever.
She's so cute. I love her. And, I have her previous cookbook and I have this one, Home is Where the Eggs Are, and I love it. It's amazing. She has one of my most favorite cooking shows out there. One of the big reasons is she has Pyrex in her kitchen all the time. And it was her husband's grandmother's Pyrex too. It's like really cool.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. She lives on a big farm and, she has chickens. The farm does everything. It's huge.
Mm-hmm.
And this book, first of all, the title, Home is Where Your Eggs Are. So cool.
It's very
That drew us in. Yeah.
Now, this is her second cookbook, right?
This is her second cookbook. And this one, it says it's a farmhouse food for the people you love. That's what we love. We love just simple food that can be made fancy or simple, however you need it. That's easy to do for you, but takes a little different twist here and there.
Right. Now, I really like it because a lot of the recipes are already gluten-free. And if they're not, they're really easy to convert to gluten and dairy-free.
I love that. Every cookbook I feel like should be like that now these days. Because you kind of cut off a whole part of the population with your cookbook if you don't.
Yes, you really do. I feel like, I don't know if it's because we use ingredients in a different way or if we have different technology, but I feel like from when I started cooking, which was well before I was 20, like in my early, preteens, I started cooking seriously. To up until now, I feel like recipes are simpler now and they still work.
Right.
Maybe we've just worked out easier way to do things. That's one of the things I do love about her. Her recipes are pretty easy and fantastically delicious.
They are. And she seems so genuine to me. And the reason why she loves to cook these things. And the book explains, coming on the farm, how the house was so small and they couldn't wait. They didn't like where the house was placed on the farm. And then finally they just fell in love with everything. Mm-hmm. And, I love the fact it's what she says, a collection of 120 dishes to enjoy with your closest humans. And that's what we do with food. Food is a way to have relationships with people, to share a lunch, a snack, coffee, all those different things, and to make it super fun. And on the back cover, she has a cracked egg. It's so cool.
Now, she uses eggs in a lot of the recipes, but she has a dedicated chapter to egg recipes.
And they're cool. They're cool recipes, different ways that you can fix them. And it just gives you different ideas. That's the one reason why we do Cracking the Eggs every week, because it's hard for yourself to think of different ways to make eggs and everything that eggs are in, to use the fresh eggs that you have. So, brainstorming different recipes. She has, like you said, the chapter all about the egg recipes, but then she has a breakfast chapter. She has a baking chapter, all these different things that use the eggs also.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she likes cooking with tots. That's why I love her too.
How do you not love that? I love that about her, but I also love the fact that she's a girl after my own heart. She's really heavy on the almonds, almond flour, and almond extract.
Oh,
delicious.
Yeah.
I love that.
I've made in the past her sugar cookie recipe. I think it was in the first book or online. I don't know where I got it. It was a while ago. And I used the chicken cookie cutters. Do you remember I used those? And she did half regular flour, half almond flour.
Yes.
And she did that more for the texture and the taste. And, those things are so easy to get these days, which makes it really nice. And, the one recipe, it's this isn't an egg one, but I'm like, oh, I'm trying this, is the Tot hot dish. And it seems like a really nice dish to make for dinner. It's just very simple. She has like a ground meat and then green beans. She makes her own cream sauce, puts it in a 9x13 dish, and then tops the whole thing with the tots and bakes it all together. I love a casserole like that for dinner too.
That's good stuff.
Yeah, just easy. You can eat it for 2 days. I love that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm going to try that one. But yeah, this is a good book. And the thing is, on Amazon right now, it's only like $16.
It is. I was surprised that it costs as little as it does. It's fantastic.
It's a hardcover book. It's really one that you can sit down. And the thing I like about it is you're not just looking at recipes. She puts different chapters or different stuff with her own opinions and different things in there. And then you have the recipes. I love the illustrations in there.
Yeah.
They're really pretty. So all around for $16, I would get this cookbook all over again. It's amazing.
Oh, yeah. I really like it.
Yeah. So if you want to find it, we're going to have this on our Amazon storefront. That way you don't have to look around. It's right there. And
I'll link it in the show notes right to our storefront. Yep.
Yeah, we love ourselves some Molly Yeh. She is so cute. Oh my God. And cooks amazingly. Okay. So should we tell everybody what we're going to be talking about next week?
Next week, we are spotlighting a Japanese breed, the Shamo. This is a listener request. Main topic, we're talking about hurricanes, specifically what you can do with your chickens in hurricanes. We're going to try to give you some resources to help. I know a lot of us have ended up in the path of hurricanes this year. It's very scary. Cracking the eggs, we're doing, this looks so good. We're doing Joe's shrimp burgers with avocado Old Bay sauce.
Thank you, honey. You came up with a great recipe there.
Wow. And Retail Therapy, we are reviewing the newly printed Hen on Nest Value book. That's a mouthful.
Well, you have them and you bought them for me for Christmas and I love them. So
yes,
we need to share them out there so everybody else can love them too.
Absolutely.
Okay, so what should we tell everybody to do until next week?
Hug your chickens
every day and kiss them too. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you'd like to see more of us, please follow us on Instagram at Coffee with the Chicken Ladies. If you'd like to help us grow the podcast, please leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts. If you'd like to become a patron of the show, please visit our Patreon page, patreon.com/coffeewiththechickenladies. Thanks for listening.